Hey guys, it's Imperial Silver here today. Today we're going to talk about coins or bills, or notes, I guess. Both these hobbies deal with money, just different types. Just kind of going to describe the different ways and what I kind of think of both. Uh, Fun factor, I guess, the term for like coins is numismatics, and the term for keeping notes is notapfully. I'm not as good as saying that, and then they're called notapalists. Yeah. I don't have a ton of notes. I'll be straight up with that quick. So it's going to be a little bit more of a discussion video, and I'll kind of have a couple pieces I'll show. Uh, but yeah, and they're going to be mostly Canadian. There's not too many. So notes started in the 7th century in China, but to be honest, most paper notes or cotton, whatever you want to call them, took off in the 17th century in Europe. So right off the get go, notes don't really go back quite as far as coins. That's just a quick thing I want to make because coins have been getting made since the 5th BC century. I think in Lydia was the first country. But yeah. So I'm just gonna go through this. I'm not gonna compare them too much with each other at the beginning. We'll go into that a bit more as we go along. Coins tend to be a little bit more worth something, no matter what, because the metal inside them. So, whereas this, I guess we'll be showing two at the same time, really quick. This $1 note, 1973, just a little later, would have been worth the same amount as this 1953 dollar when they were put out, but this dollar has a silver content of around like probably $20 ish. That's 80%. It's pretty big, you know. But this $1 note does not have that. The only thing that makes this $1 note valuable is the collector's value on this versus this, which has a little bit of both. This is like a metal value and a collector value. So that's a little bit of something you have to consider. Whereas like the coins might be a little bit more stable and just kind of trend up. Even in hard times, metals are going to have value. They've been valued for a long time. A note like this is only really valuable to a collector, whereas this is valuable for the silver also. So this kind of pulls from like two areas of value, and this pulls from one. And this is just a collector base. Like no one's going to be putting these together to make paper or something. At least not yet. Things aren't that rough. So something to consider when you're getting into it, that this hat doesn't have that metal content, that like this inherent value in it. Like the most you might be able to get for this is $1. I don't even know if this one's legal anymore, to be honest. In 1978, I'd see why it wouldn't be, but you might not be able to. Another thing that's good for banknotes. We'll switch notes here. From this Canada one, we're going to jump to an older Canadian one. Because they have a little bit more variations. This actually is a pretty bad note to show for this. Yeah, we're not going to go to this. I'm going to jump over to the... let's go to the Canadian note here, actually. This is a bit easier to show. Variations. So, notes going to have a lot of stuff that happens here. Where it could be like, all these are the same number. They could be a star note. In America, that's a big thing. They could be a radar, so they could read the same as they are backwards. They could be like 7111117. That'd be kind of valuable too. There's a whole bunch of other ways that these can be valuable. Coins don't really get that as much. They have like variations in like mints, like you have repunches and stuff, but they don't have that like rarity. And this is nice because it holds over into modern coins. Whereas modern coins don't have the value of silver, and they don't really have as much variation. They're pretty good at it these days. There's the odd error, like the no face bat coin in the U.S. there. I think that came out. It's like a 25-cent collectible from one of the parks. I don't remember. It's not no face bat, but it's like a punched in bat, and that's like one of the big varieties I know of recently. But yeah, that's a difference. Like with modern notes, you actually could do like look through a whole bunch of modern stuff and see if you could find that. They won't be worth a lot. They might be worth like a couple bucks more, depending on the the nomination. Like coins, the bigger it is, the more valuable it is, depending on what you find. So a $1 note for, like a star note is not going to be worth much. Maybe like 25 cents extra or something. But if you have like a 20 or like $100 note, that's going to be worth a bit more. It might increase the value like by 10% or so. So that's something that's kind of cool. The other thing that I would say is, this is another thing that's quite different between them, is the wear. Where on a piece of paper, I have to hand this very gently. Like I can't like bend it. or anything. This is actually pretty cool. This is 25 cents. This isn't even a full dollar. I think it's been pretty neat. Got the same value as this. Pretty much pretty close too. But yeah, like this, you can see me. I'm flipping this pretty like casually. This is like not a super high quality. I will say, in very high condition, coins can be really delicate too. But paper is incredibly like if I spit on this, or I'm just like a little bit rough with it, this could lose its value a lot quicker than per se the coin up there, right? I actually love this little thing. I think it's super cool. It's very tiny. So this is like it compared to like the regular $1 note. I'm pretty sure these aren't valid anymore, but they're really cool. There's also a little bit of stuff with like signing sometimes. Various paper current notes tend to have a little bit different values. But yeah, that's one thing to notice about like with notes. Like you have to be a lot more delicate with how you store that. So that's something you have to really consider when you're getting into note collecting. Is like, where's coins? You might be able to put them in a box, if they're like lower grades, and just kind of be like, yeah, that's good enough, right? Or when you're dealing with like this, like I'd be scared to just toss this in a box, because as soon as you open that box, it's gonna be a problem. Just 1 second, guys. I just need to quickly do something here. My cat's gonna knock something over, I think. Sorry about that, guys. Just cat was about to knock bowl over. So, but yeah. I was saying like yeah, you have to worry about like where you store this a lot more than per se like the coins. The coins, not that you don't want to care for these nicely, but you can definitely get away with a little bit more of a not as important as the thing. Another thing that I would say is like the coin, like these tend to be based a little bit more on wear for value. So a coin, like a piece of paper, a note like this, unless it's like really valuable, when it's in this condition, it is a pretty beat up note. It has writing on it. Like this is just like a scrap one I kind of have, but it's kind of interesting. It's just really not going to have much value. You kind of need them in these like kind of like minty states for paper currency to be worth much. I find you can get them in these if it's valuable or has like enough value, but fine paper is a little weird in that aspect. So that's one thing, keep in mind. This is interesting. This actually has like a little victory thing on it because it's after World War II, and Philippines was liberated from Japanese control. So sometimes you have stuff like this where it's like been like stamped over top of something. They do this in Hawaii, I know, during World War II, because they were worried the Japanese to take over, so they made them Hawaii, so they wouldn't be able to be used anywhere if they decided to call it out, so they couldn't mess with the market. It's pretty interesting. And there's like a whole bunch of different like things. And you have like silver certificates and stuff too in America. That's one thing I'd also say. This side of the hobby is a lot more alive in the American side of things than in most other places. Here in Canada, like the notes are a little bit of a thing, but coin collecting is way bigger. And same with America, but the American note collection is like a little bit more alive than I think the rest of the note collecting sides of the hobbies are. I don't see other notes pop up, and if I do, it's like a bundle like this, like 100 of these for like maybe $200 or something. Like they're very cheap, and they just have like a ton of different countries. They're not really like anybody trying to like keep them or anything. So yeah, it's a bit more of an American hobby, I would say, in that aspect, where it's like I don't have any American notes because I'm not a huge note collector myself. I have like these two. I have a little bit here, right? But yeah, so that's kind of the difference between this, right? Like this is the same worth technically, right? Back in the day, but this is completely different values. One positive I would say, this isn't really a good note for it though. I'd probably go back to this one. Is that note's gonna have a lot more on them than a coin. So this coin has, Canada dollar, the year, has this picture. It's not usually super intense, like even the most intense coins. I don't have like a really intense coin on my desk right now. I guess this is kind of an intense coin. Or actually, this is pretty intense. Panama's got a pretty intense one because it has a coat of arms, right? Coat of arms, you got all this happening on here. This is a pretty busy coin. But this is like, and then this one, you have the portrait of the queen, which is obviously a high resolution. It's like a picture, right? Um, because it's just a lot easier to get that detail on a paper versus this, and you can get like more interesting scenes. I'd say like almost more of the culture of the country through these. Not all of them do it. Like these two are pretty boring. Like you can, like there's not much to this. This is like more like a fancy design kind of note. You know, has Britannia there, the symbol of Britain in the middle. I think that's what that is. And then we have like just a fancy design, 25 cents. You know, so it kind of varies, but you can get a lot of culture out of notes. So that's one thing. Um, yeah. Other things that can be interesting for notes is you can collect like a little bit more historical stuff here and there. For example, the Zimbabwe dollar during inflation, they hit the highest point of inflation of any country. You can buy $100 trillion notes. It's actually kind of cool. Um, and they're like pretty collectible these days. They weren't too much a while ago, but they've really kicked it up. They have a whole bunch of different variations because it just went crazy. Um, a lot of the countries during the depressions had pretty weird notes. There's some of those. Germany was one that had their economy crash in the interwar period there between World War I and World War II, and they have the same thing as Zimbabwe. They're not quite as collectible, but they're still pretty collectible. There's a couple of things with them that you can find. I do think that no tapfully. Sorry, I'm really bad at saying that. That's really hard to say. That might be something they want to change. That's way harder to say than numismatic. Maybe I'm used to saying numismatics. Um, is that I think notes are valid to collect, and I don't think they're a bad investment by any means or anything. But I do think these are more something I would be. This is more like a passion thing, I think. Like, I wouldn't collect. Notes, I think, are harder to flip because I think notes take a while to sell. The market's smaller. You know, they're not going to move with silver prices. Like, if silver prices jump $10 tomorrow, this coin's going to be more valuable. And if I sell it for like 20, like, and only $5 up, it'll sell for way better, right? These are only going to go based off of collector values, so you're going to see a lot more gradual growth and increase in these. These are more like, oh, I want to have, you know, this image, and I want to have like a 25-cent note because it's cool, more so than like, you know, this coin, which is like silver content. So yeah, I think they're both valid. I'm definitely more of a coin collector. You're not going to see too many notes pop up on this page. There's like one or two notes that have caught my attention over time. Like this 25-cent note was one. I got this actually gifted to me. This one, I like it. Like, it's not bad. I'll probably keep it because it's a gift, and like the crest there is quite colorful. But yeah, and yeah, you know, I think overall they're both valid choices. I definitely stick with coins personally. But, you know, tell me down below what you think. Do you collect coins or notes? And if so, why do you collect that? And if you collect both, you know, what do you think is kind of better? You know, I'm just kind of curious what you guys have to hear. There's not as many no tapabilities I know, so you might be overwhelmed in the comments. It's not going to be too many of you, I think, but, you know, maybe comment a whole bunch. And also, if you stay to the end of the video, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, you know. I'm going to be doing a video a week, and yeah, we're going to do like a nice little, boom, here you go, comparison, contrast, right? The same amount. Alrighty, well, you guys, you know, keep collecting.